What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So in this one, I'm going to be going over how to not only draw supply and demand zones on your chart so you get a little bit better market context when you're going into any trading day, but I'm also going to go over a little bit how I use these zones every single day in my trading when I am using all of the principles that we outlined for you in our group with 1348. So let's actually kind of get right into it here. So the basic premise of a lot of these supply and demand zones that we have here are that retail investors aren't really moving the markets. What's actually moving the markets is big institutional money, because when you think about the amount of money floating around in the market, it's going to take a lot of money in order to move any given stock up or down. So what these zones enable you to do is see where these large institutional buyers or sellers are willing to transact. So let's kind of take a look over on the chart here and kind of see exactly what we mean by this. So what we're going to be looking at here is Apple, and we're looking on the 4-hour time frame. And a quick note here, I typically like to draw these zones on my chart when I'm looking at the 4-hour or the 1-hour time frame. When you're going out to longer time frames, those zones are going to get respected a little bit more, just because you're trading on a longer time frame. You're going to be seeing a little bit more time in these candles, more price actions is going to be taking place in these candles. So these zones are going to get respected a little bit more if you're trading on a larger time frame. Like, you're not going to be using a 1-minute supply and demand zone if you're trying to trade on the longer time frames, because those can get blown through very quickly. So taking a look at Apple here, here's kind of what I look for when I am trying to plot out these supply and demand zones, specifically on the 4-hour time frame. And I want to go back a little bit here, because this area right here is going to demonstrate this very well. You are looking for times when you see a large push in either direction of buyers or sellers, where it is very obvious that the sellers are winning or the buyers are in control of price action. So what we see here is I have this blue line here, but you don't really need to focus too much in on that. Right here is kind of the zone that I want you guys to focus in on here. You see price action consolidate for a couple of these 4-hour candles and then makes a large move to the downside. Now, when we're looking at this right here, here's kind of how I would draw this zone. I would take a look at here, go on my Webull, take a look at this rectangle right here. I would draw this right basically on the body of this candle and extend it all the way out. Now, what I want you guys to kind of take a look at here are what is the top and bottom of this specific zone. We have about 156.50, and the bottom of it is about 155, so we have a $1.50 range. But when we come out a little bit further here, you see something very similar happen in this price range. Price runs up into this demand zone or previous supply zone and gets rejected back down to this blue line that I have down here. So you can see that these levels are going to be very, very important, not only because you've seen buyers and sellers transact in a large way in these levels before, but it's also possible that there are still sitting sell orders up in this little level here, that when price ends up coming back down, there are still orders that need to be filled up in this range. Now, what a lot of people will do when they're trading supply and demand zones is they will say, okay, once price runs into a zone, let's say you are looking for a rejection to the downside. Let's say price runs into the zone, you are then going to need confirmation, either looking for big sellers coming in or starting to reject back out of the zone. I use them a little bit differently. What I do when I'm trading, since I'm trading with 1348, is I will kind of back off of a chart that I'm looking at if I see price run into a zone or very close into a zone. Now, if I then start to see the crosses that I need to see happen, key levels of support and resistance either get respected or rejected, and price starts to move outside of a zone, then I will kind of focus more in on that chart. But what these supply and demand zones kind of tell me during the day is what price ranges do I not necessarily want to be trading in. It gives you a little bit more insight into the context of the market. Now, showing you guys this on a couple of different ones, you see price makes this big move down, and then buyers step back up right here and send it back to the upside. And you can see this range right here again is respected over here. Now, these are going to be a little bit different than support and resistance levels, because support and resistance levels are basically going to be down to the penny or down to a dollar amount. When you're thinking about longer time frames in these institutions, basically fighting over whether or not the price is going to either continue upwards, stay consolidating, or break to the downside. Well, there's going to be a little bit of a battle going on, and they're going to bounce it around in a specific range. That's kind of why, like what we were saying earlier, that when price does go into this range, you could see a little bit of a consolidation period, but there's going to be many of these zones actually drawn out on the charts. Now, if you guys remember previously, so right now it's August 2nd of 2022. Back in early June, we saw this pretty drawn out consolidation period with the overall market. Now, we do have this zone here on Apple that I have previously drawn out and kind of extended out to where we are at right now. But as you can see, again, you see price break hard out of this zone right here and then start to chop around. Yes, there's definitely other zones down in here, but taking a look back at what Apple tends to do once we run back into this zone right here or approach it, we get knocked down. We approach it again, we get knocked down. We keep approaching this level here before we've run into this zone enough times where all of those potential sitting sell orders in this zone are then filled. And that allows the buyers to then step up and push price higher. Now, there's a couple of things that I want you guys to keep in mind when you're trying to either draw these zones out on your chart and actually trading with them. The first is that they don't necessarily have to be exact. You guys could watch a bunch of other YouTube videos that are going to say, oh, I like to draw these that are basically the full candle size, wick to wick. Some people are going to say, well, I actually like to wait and draw it on the consolidation period after the breakdown. Again, guys, these don't necessarily have to be exact. I wouldn't really focus too much in on trying to pinpoint it down to the penny. As long as you know about what this range is going to be, it gives you more market context than you were to have otherwise. Now, the other thing, kind of going back to the time frames here, is that every once in a while, I'll bring it down to the 30-minute time frame and go over the last few days to get a more recent kind of depiction of what price is actually doing. But what that can end up having you do is have too many of these zones on the chart, and it's going to be very hard for you to actually take trades because remember, as I said before, if price runs into one of these zones or is very close to one, I'm probably going to back off a little bit on taking a trade. Let's say price is running up into a zone and all of my indicators with 1348 are saying, yes, this looks like a good trade. I'm probably not going to be trading that as it's running into this zone because I know there could be a bunch of sell orders sitting up in that top range that could push price back to the downside. So again, I wouldn't necessarily have too many of these zones on your chart. That's why I like to use the 4-hour and sometimes the 1-hour time frame when I am drawing these. So I have less zones and more strong levels of supply and demand in the overall market. And again, guys, if you do want a little bit more access into our trading group where we do go over 1348 and these key support and resistance levels, make sure you guys go check out that link down below. We have over 55 private live streams every single month. We have a full learning curriculum on basically teaching you guys how to trade options from zero to all the way through the strategy that we like to teach. We have trading algorithms. We have some other really interesting trading algorithms coming. We give you guys these very, very specific and custom charts. So again, if you guys are interested in that, make sure you check out that link down below. But again, that's kind of wrap up this video on supply and demand zones. If you guys do have any more questions about this, leave them down in the comments below. But other than that, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Peace.